Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host, and this is Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about a topic that's well known all over the world. Normally it's in the elderly communities, but now it's in all the communities, and that's dementia-friendly communities. We're going to be talking to Mrs. Christine Damon. She's the founder and executive director of CareSmart, Illinois. And supporting her is Mrs. Patricia Taylor, liaison for Faith Communities. Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
We're very happy that you've taken time from your busy schedule to be with us to talk to Lake County about dementia-friendly communities. Lake County is approximately 750,000 people, but we have a Comcast family of about 100,000 people. But this program is shown all over the world. drbrooks.tv, commercial there. You can watch it all over for those that don't have the Comcast TV. Before we start talking about dementia, Christine, I would like for you to tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal and professional background. Who is Christine Damon?
Oh, okay. Well, I am a former teacher, college administrator. Worked with a lot of at-risk kids in East Aurora, and have taught ESL and GED. And I'm now a 4-time family caregiver. So because of my family caregiving experience, I went back to school and I started, I finished a master's degree in gerontology, which is the study of aging, not the medical piece, but generally everything else.
Okay.
So with that, I trained, I was in Albany, New York. I worked for Catholic Charities and a volunteer organization. I trained nationally for a company called Dementia Care Specialist, and then 4 years ago came back and started a not-for-profit called CareSmart Illinois, with the mission of educating family caregivers, older adults, and people with disabilities about aging.
Well, Patricia, I'm going to give you the same opportunity that I have given Christine. I want you to tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal professional background. Who is Patricia Taylor?
Patricia Taylor is a volunteer for the community. I volunteer at my church and in the community wherever I'm needed. So I like to get the word out. Dementia is my baby, I would say. And
Now, how did you get interested in dementia? Was there someone in your family attracted you to go in that direction?
actually, it was more, I saw a lot of this in my own church family. I belong to the Shiloh Baptist Church of Waukegan, and because we are an older congregation, I know that a lot of the families are they're dealing with this, and not only that, I have friends and other family members that deal with dementia, and it has a stigma that's related to it, and that's what we're trying to get rid of, to get rid of that stigma that's with dementia, that a person is, you know, crazy, or they want to hide them away.
Well, Christine, what is dementia?
Well, dementia is a term that still a lot of people just use to describe somebody who's older whose memory is not working very well. But I use the Mayo Clinic definition, which basically says that dementia is a group of symptoms that are related to memory, related to thinking skills, and related to social abilities. And people have these abilities, but something happens and they can no longer function at the level they used to function. So it interferes with their everyday ability to function. So the memory interferes. They can't remember, so they can't do their jobs, or they can't do, if they take care of things at home, it might be remembering to cook or drive. Or they can't process information, so they make poor decisions. They may have poor judgment. And then in some ways their social abilities, they become more easily angered, or they blurt things out. So these are things we all do every day, but for somebody with dementia, it's things that they do on a continual basis, so much that it interferes with their ability to function either in their job or in their homes.
Now, is it related to Alzheimer's?
Yes, Alzheimer's is one type of dementia.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Now, dementia really affects the whole family, right? It's not just that person; it's the whole household that's affected by it, right?
Right. And because the person with dementia can't do what they used to do, so they need extra help.
Okay.
And lots of times if there's a spouse, it's from the spouse. It might be from adult children. It's even from grandchildren and sometimes great-grandchildren. They now estimate there are about 1.4 children who are caregiving in this country, and often that's somebody with dementia. And then Pat, you mentioned about in your faith community,
Yes.
which you see that, and so that's even a bigger family. Mm-hmm. So a whole community, if you take a community where there are a lot of older people, and a lot of people have dementia, it can affect really a huge part of that community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Pat, you have been a volunteer to go to the faith communities to make them aware of what we call dementia, right?
That's correct.
And how have you been, what projects have you given them to really make them aware?
I usually ask Chris to come along, and we present them with the information that we have on dementia,
okay,
and how we can develop, what it's going to take to develop these dementia-friendly communities. Dementia-friendly communities would be communities where the community as a whole would recognize dementia. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the person that has dementia and their caregivers would be able to go about in the community, and people would recognize that this person has dementia, and they would be able to help rather than be confused about what's going on or what's happening.
Now, Christine, is there certain zip codes that have more dementia than others? And I tell you, I follow up. I mentioned zip codes because the foods that we may eat or activities we may be involved in, industrialized communities, and this type of thing.
Well, I don't know as I would say zip codes. The research I've seen says that the less healthy you are, that increases your risk of a lot of diseases, heart disease, diabetes, and with, for instance, those two diseases, there tend to be higher rates of dementia. So there's evidence that says that people who live along expressways have higher incidence of dementia, and they think that's because of the pollution. But generally speaking, every year, like any numbers that I would give you about how many people have dementia and where they are, the Alzheimer's Association there are all these estimates. Nobody is, as far as I know, has gone down and calculated within certain, small geographic areas how many people have dementia.
Okay.
But again, generally speaking, if people have heart disease, they're higher. That's a real risk factor. Diabetes is a real risk factor. So anything that affects your heart also can affect your brain. So, and generally people who have less access to financial resources sometimes, because maybe they don't eat right, or alcohol is highly related to dementia. Medications are highly related to dementia symptoms, but not specific zip codes that I know of.
I mentioned that, oh boy, in certain, I saw some statistics stated 1 of 7 age 65 have Alzheimer's disease or other dementia.
Yes.
1 of 7.
Yeah.
But that's age 65
Right.
or better.
Right. So the older a person gets, the greater the risk. Okay, so that's one factor. And the other thing to think of is 6 out of 7 people don't.
Okay.
Okay, to flip those numbers. Sometimes people will, we all have a bad day where, oh my goodness, I forgot,
Yeah, that's what-
And the older we get, people are going, oh my goodness,
that senior moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, but we tend to function, that happens and we keep functioning. It's when we can't do what we need to do every day that's an indicator that there's really a problem.
So is that true? The family should start watching the person and say, oh, I went in the kitchen and I forgot what I went in there for. Or I had two or three things on my mind, but I forgot. I went to the post office and I forgot to mail the letters. I had other things on my mind. Is that something we should start looking at?
It's generally a pattern, a pattern that's out of the norm, that you see happening.
Yeah.
It's not just everyday being everyday forgetful. I mean, I forget sometimes too, but not that. Usually there's a pattern of things that's out of the norm with that person that's happening.
Yeah.
So we should become aware. We should start watching.
Well, yeah, we should be aware for ourselves,
right.
And we should be aware for our loved ones. But just like if you back your car out of your garage and it stalls, and you drive it the rest of the day, chances are you're not going to take it to the mechanic. If you take your car out and it stalls in the driveway, it stalls at the stop sign, it stalls at the street light, if you don't have to be towed, you're probably going to check into getting it fixed. And that's kind of the same thing. And it could be that your symptoms are related to stress, or they could be related to medication. But people need to find out what's causing those symptoms. And sometimes they're reversible, and with something like Alzheimer's disease, then at this point they're not reversible.
What about our family physician? Should that physician be aware of through medication or something, something's happened to the brain or something, or?
If there are changes, if there are major changes, yes.
Yeah.
Like you say, it may be through medication, right?
Right.
If you take it could have an adverse effect.
Right.
If you take different types of medication, because
Right.
Physicians they're practicing, right?
Yeah, and we hope that they've practiced really hard and really well, yes.
So they may not become aware.
Well, I would say that they should be aware, and the other person is the pharmacist. So I have told people, check with your pharmacist. I have called a pharmacist myself when I've been given a prescription and been concerned that maybe it's going to affect my brain, what's going to happen. There are a lot of medications that affect older adults in different ways than they affect younger adults, and so there's something called the Beers list, And the Beers list, which all physicians should have access to, and you can pull it up on the internet, will say these medications are not recommended for older adults, or older adults should receive lower doses because those medications can have adverse effects on your brain and other parts of your body too. Mm-hmm. So we just need to be careful.
You know, I became aware of this seriously when Pat came to our church and gave an awareness information, to the group. And boy, hair was standing on each of his head, dementia, and do I have dementia and this type of thing. But Pat, you, from that, you were given an opportunity to have classes, forums, I guess would be a better word for it, for people to come out and learn what dementia was, right?
Yes. Actually, Chris and I, we do what's called memory cafes once a month at different locations. And therefore, right now we hold them on Thursdays. I think it's the third Thursday?
Generally.
On the third Thursdays
at different
of the month.
churches?
Different churches, and not only the different churches, I mean, we've had them at other locations outside of the church, like the Hero Center downtown Waukegan.
Oh.
We had one, I believe, we had a speaker come out at Park Place. So we've been moving them around.
Now, how's the response? How serious do people take that, because it's a serious thing,
Yeah. Well, people, I would say, are afraid.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness, your hair was standing on end in church when you were thinking about it, okay? The research says that...
Well, what if I don't have any hair to stand?
You got a little around the sides. Yeah. So, according to research, people are afraid of cancer first, and then dementia. Mm-hmm. But part of it is that the research also says people don't understand what dementia is.
Right.
So as we get older, our brains don't, in a lot of ways, they're not quite as quick as they used to be.
Okay.
Sometimes it's harder to find a word. You hear thingamajig and whatchamacallit, but we still keep functioning every day. It's when we start to notice, and if somebody else starts to notice, you're missing important people's birthday parties, or, you are not paying the bills. They're these just made things that are really messing up your life. Mm-hmm. There's something wrong, and it's time to see the doctor and find out what that something is.
Well, dementia can cause death then, right?
People can die.
Or is it contributing to death?
Yes, because as the brain is damaged, and as that damage expands, it can finally affect a person's ability to breathe and the ability of the heart to breathe or to beat, because our brains control everything we do.
Well, then that causes what you're describing as memory loss then, right?
Yes.
Memory loss, but also executive function. Some dementia affects different parts of the brain. Mm-hmm. So there's a frontotemporal dementia that basically hits the front part of the brain, that executive functioning part of the brain first. But there are about 100 different kinds of dementias.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So dementia can be diagnosed, but what we're doing is looking at symptoms of dementia rather than we don't have a physician that just diagnoses dementia, right? We just look at the symptoms.
Well, neurologists do the best they can. So they see the symptoms, they'll run some tests to check for B12 and for thyroid and some other things. So they do these physical tests to see what's going on. And then depending on that, they can do more. They can do brain scans. They can do a variety of things. They can't officially diagnose Alzheimer's disease without an autopsy. But they've also done autopsies on people and discovered they had Alzheimer's disease and the person didn't really exhibit symptoms.
Oh, okay.
So there's just so much yet to know. There's so much to know.
Well, have you discovered the treatment, heard of a treatment for dementia or something that can slow down the process?
Well, some medications can slow down the process if somebody has an irreversible dementia.
Yeah.
But the medications don't work for everybody. The other thing is that slows down the process is for people to keep doing
The
as
things
much
that
as
they
they
can
can
do.
for as long as they can, whereas where dementia-friendly communities come in.
Right.
You know, I'll start a little bit, but then you want to add, Pat, about like the memory cafes.
Okay.
How, well, I think the most we've ever had is 17 people at one. And we have people there who are concerned about their memory, so they're not diagnosed, but they're concerned. We have some people who have been diagnosed,
Right.
and we have caregivers of people with dementia. And they all come together, and we do projects that, and have conversations that everybody participates in.
And it stimulates the brain from music. We have music projects, we've had
Okay.
gardening projects, art projects, because these are things that stimulate the brain,
Okay.
you know. And usually if a person has memory loss, these things work. They work because there's something that jars that memory that it pulls out something in them.
But it's not a cure. There's nothing that's a cure. But quite often the activities will help reduce,
Calm them.
Yeah, and help reduce anxiety.
Right.
And if you think about, if you get anxious about something, it's harder to remember. It's
Right.
harder to make a decision. So we try to reduce the anxiety, and that helps people function. And it also helps their caregivers because they're functioning better.
Well, from what I'm hearing, it's related to the aging process, right? We got a normal aging process that goes on anyway, though. So dementia is part of the aging process. Could you say that?
Well, there's the older we get, the chances of any kind of disease, being affected by any kind of disease is greater.
Greater.
Okay.
So
okay.
it is that, but there are people in their 40s who have like an
Memory
early
loss.
onset Alzheimer's disease or frontotemporal dementia, because there are some times that dementia will strike earlier. So, but generally speaking, dementia, things like Alzheimer's or vascular dementia, which is connected with strokes, they tend to strike the older population, the vast majority of them, yes.
That's when I was wondering whether, when I mentioned certain zip codes, is the foods that we eat. You know, I guess doctors haven't found a real cure for it. If they did, they could have some medication to slow down the process. I guess maybe they can slow down the process.
Well, the medications can reduce the symptoms, though not slow the progression of the disease. So, so something might improve memory for a time, like even the projects that we do, but it doesn't keep the disease from
Doesn't cure it or anything.
or
It's not a
from
cure-all.
moving forward. Okay. And the thing, as far as foods go, your brain needs oxygen. Your brain needs nutrition. Your brain needs blood. Your brain needs water, hydration. So
Okay.
anything that keeps those things from getting to your brain are going to affect your brain. Sugar is really bad for our brains. But they're finding now that amongst people who have at least a high school diploma, that dementia rates are decreasing, both in Europe and in the US. They're not sure why, but they speculate that's because even though people have heart disease or have diabetes, they're doing a better job of taking their medications.
Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, what you're encouraging, and I ask for either one of you, is that we're trying to get more people active, say, to be caregivers. Is this one of your objectives in making the people aware that we do have this problem in the country now, and we want to start having more caregivers, and would that help the situation, or?
Having more caregivers?
Yeah, because you guys are caregivers, right? So do we need more caregivers, I would say, in the families?
I think what we need is more awareness.
Okay.
Is what we need. We need this to be, for people to be aware.
Okay.
We need people to address this and not sweep it under the rug.
Okay.
This is real.
Okay.
So we need people to embrace this, to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we really need.
Yeah, and part of it is to focus not on what the person can't do as much as you focus on what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can, as a large community, understand that maybe Mr. Smith can't remember what he had for breakfast, but he can still go to the coffee shop and have a great time with his friends. That's important, and he should go to the coffee shop
Right.
and have a great time with his friends. And if the story he's telling isn't true, it doesn't make any difference, because
Right.
you know, if a bunch of men get together in a coffee
Oh,
shop and tell a
yes.
story, it's going to be a
yes.
story, right? So, you know, so we want
Women
to...
don't do that.
No, absolutely not. So we want to encourage people to be able to stay in their communities and stay engaged and go places they used to go, and for the people that are there to kind of help them out a little
Right.
bit. You know, and by doing that, then we help the caregivers, because caregivers, it's a very, very stressful, and caregivers sometimes die before the person that they're caring
because
for.
from the stress of taking care of someone else, because it's hard to take care of someone else. It is.
But it's a real situation, though.
It's real.
They have to.
It's real.
They have
Yeah.
to do it.
It's real.
Yeah, so we kind of have to, part of it is we need to help them too. So if they understand, if their family understands, so the family can be supportive, if community understands, if their faith community understands, lots of times people start staying home from church, and really they would get a lot of comfort from being at church.
Right.
And their caregiver would get a lot of comfort from being there.
Socializing and being around people, instead of keeping them away from what they know, they should let them come to the places that they know. Let them stay engaged in what they know. Do the things that they know. Let them continue to do that. Don't put them away or hide them away, because that doesn't help them, and it certainly doesn't help the caregiver.
Well, it appears to me, and while you're talking, I was thinking, Park Place, for example, provides an opportunity for retirees to come together, and I was watching they playing cards and playing games and so forth. And so whether they had this in mind years ago about support, making people aware of dementia or not, but they've been doing this for years, and I guess this kind of the type of programs you're talking about would support and keep their minds active in doing things.
Yes, yeah, so that's what is we want. So if the people, and I've been to Park Place where I would say there are some people there who have dementia, and they were they were participating in what they were doing, and that was really a good thing.
Okay.
You know, so the more that the staff at Park Place understands about dementia, so that they can support the person and make allowances sometimes, you know, all of that can, and the person's engaged, then that improves their quality of life and can also help their caregivers and be beneficial to the community for us to understand that because people aren't perfect, that they're still people and they just still deserve our respect and they still, you know, we want to include them as much as we can.
And let them do the things that they can still do, you know.
Fantastic.
I want to take it away from
And I could see their life would be more meaningful to them and probably would live longer.
Oh, absolutely, I think.
Right. So I can see what you're doing, Pat, raising awareness and also reducing stigma, right? And you're trying to promote the support in their communities by going to the faith communities. Are you well received in the faith communities?
I would say yes. With that, I would hope that in the future, in the very near future, that we would get a little more support.
Okay.
When we go to them, you know, to say okay, and then it just kind of lays there. It doesn't help. You know, we need you to be involved, to get involved at some level, on some level, and not just say, receive the information and just sit on it. I
Well,
guess.
Christine, you think it's because it's something new? In other words, it hasn't happened to their families. Maybe they haven't been aware that it's happened in their families. You think that's one of the reasons why it hasn't caught on? Why you only have 17 people at a awareness session, you know, when you go to the...
That's pretty good. Well, part of it is that
Stigma.
they know that there are things going on, but because of the stigma, we don't talk about it.
That's it.
We don't
That
want
stigma.
anybody to know,
Yeah.
you know, that our loved one has this problem with their brain, you know, because it's so. The disease is not the diseases. Dementia is not very well understood, so people are afraid, and they're afraid. You know, they're going to be embarrassed if
Exactly.
you know somebody says something or does something that's not
Right.
appropriate. You know, so that's a real concern for
Right.
people. And no matter where I go, no matter what community I'm in, there are some communities in Lake County that I have done programs on dementia at a lot of libraries. I've had up to 70 people come to a program. I have communities where the library will not even return my phone call.
Wow.
Right.
So it varies from community to community. I have to say right now, just on Monday, I trained the staff at North Chicago Library. So North Chicago Library is now dementia friendly. We're going to be training the Zion Benton Library staff, and we're going to be training Waukegan Library staff. I do know I didn't do the training. Grays Lake Library staff is trained. And then Waukegan Housing Authority's been trained.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to be doing Lake County Housing Authority. And I've also trained a heating company, a dentist office, and I trained the first responders in Grays Lake. And so there are a number of places that we're getting little inroads, and then people who are at that training, they'll go, can you come to my church? You know, so once people find out, then they go, oh, that's it. That's what that is. Okay, I get that. and you start to show them that there are things that they can do. I mean, you can't cure it, and not everything works every day, you know, and or that, you know, might work in the morning but not at night. But the more we can talk about it as a community and try to reduce that stigma, the more we can get people to
Get involved.
and help to improve the quality of life for the person with dementia and their families.
Well, you seem to be very passionate about being a trainer. You were formerly a national trainer for dementia specialists, so it seemed like you're very passionate about it.
Yes. Yes. In my training comes, and that training, though I had education on dementia before, that training is based on what occupational therapist and a big focus on what people can do. So, and what they like to do. And one of the things people like to do is sing, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why our next memory cafe will be a sing-along.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah.
Very, very unique. Yeah. The thinking person. They got the right person for the job there.
Well, actually, the people will sing, and they enjoy it though. They enjoy singing,
Right,
singing
right,
along.
right.
Yes.
This is fantastic, and I'm sure our listening audience are benefiting greatly and start thinking that maybe they should participate more, you know, and because it could happen to, it is happening
Right.
to any family.
That's it.
Right.
Well, Pat, now that was Christine. I was just this, but tell us about Care Smart. How did that develop?
Well, Care Smart came out of my experience as a caregiver, and then my education in gerontology and my work with family caregivers. When I was in upstate New York, I used to run 5 support groups a month.
Oh.
And the volunteer agency I worked for, we had a lot of programs that supporting older adults who lots of times had dementia.
Yeah.
So we just started doing programs. So it's basically we focus on education. So doing programs in the community, and like when Pat called me and wanted me to talk about dementia and caregiving, I go, oh, I can do that. So, and I also have a master's degree in adult education, so I really try to take, there's so much that's complex, and I try to make things as simple as possible
Yeah.
for people, and we've had a lot of success. Some libraries I've been back like 6 times doing different programs on dementia, but we focus on education with the belief that the people in the community are educated about aging well, how to be healthy, and if you've got a problem, best ways to take care of it, then their quality of life is going to be improved.
Well, Pat, I look like Christine is giving you all the kudos, getting her involved, but tell us about, again, what piqued your interest in providing care for families living with memory loss.
Every year, let me back up a little bit. I found out in 2012 that then President Barack Obama had declared the month of November as National Family Caregivers Month.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, what a way to recognize the caregiver. Caregiving can be a thankless task.
Okay.
It can. And so I came up with this idea to have like a recognition for the caregivers just at my church. And in putting that together, I thought I should have a presenter to come in and give the caregiver some type of information on what they might be dealing with. So one of the things that was great in my church was people dealing with maybe memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked for a presenter that could do something that could present on dementia or Alzheimer. And that's when I saw this this piece and it said Care Smart, and I thought, that looks like a good name.
Okay.
So I called the number, and that's how I met Chris. And the rest is history.
This is fantastic. Well, Community Forum is very proud to be part of this. I didn't realize that this was very timely. The month of November, that was played a great part in this. So we almost made it. Today is December 6th, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and November is also Alzheimer's Awareness Month. So those two go together.
Ties all in.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? This is fantastic.
Ties all in.
And we hoping that you talked before about the quality of life may be better, by having awareness sessions, about, the caregiving. So you're doing a great job. Pat is marketing the program, making more people aware by going to the faith community. And that seemed to be the most, popular place or what to go is the faith communities. You reach the most people that way, I guess, right?
Well, perhaps.
Perhaps, but I think we've also taken the definition of the faith community to include the whole community. So, yes, it's the churches, but
it's also the community.
The community,
as a whole.
the community
Okay.
at large.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then actually, because of all of Pat's help, we wouldn't be at this church if it wasn't for Pat making these connections. And this grant that we have now, we have a grant from the Lake County Community Foundation, which is allowing us to do this dementia building that we've been doing. Then our grant ends this month, at the end of the month. But the Northeastern Illinois Area Agency on Aging applied for a grant to build dementia-friendly communities. So they have a grant that's focusing on Kankakee and Lake counties, and we're continuing some of the work in that grant. So we're going to be doing more dementia-friendly programs at faith communities and in other kinds of communities, different sectors, so financial businesses, libraries, doing some of that, doing some programs for family caregivers, a program called Stress Busters, and we're just going to be out there doing a lot to work in the communities to continue to educate the population of the county, of Lake County, because extrapolating numbers, there are probably 15 to 20,000 people with some kind of dementia in Lake County.
Wow.
Some kind.
And that has to be a guess. It comes down from Alzheimer's Association, and you figure based on your population, and so it's a percentage, it's a guess. But that means there are about 30,000, at least 30,000 people who are caring for those people with dementia.
Well, what about the Lake County Health Department? Have you been working with them, or are they doing similar thing?
Well, they're not doing
Is it part of Lake County Health?
Yeah, they're not doing. They work in behavioral health.
Okay.
But the county doesn't have a program that's basic. That's more age specific. Okay, so in some counties, the county does have even a Department of Aging.
Okay.
Lake County doesn't have that, but we've invited them to become involved in this dementia-friendly movement. And from my conversations with them, I believe that they are going to be involved.
This is fantastic. I was wondering about that, and I think they should want to be part of it if they have not initiated a program themselves.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
right.
I would think so. And I talked to somebody else from the county about a year ago, and they seemed really interested, but a lot of things just, it takes a long time to get things going, and as you know, in the state of Illinois, finances are pretty tight, so.
Is that right?
Yeah, you haven't heard that rumor. Yep, so, but we just keep doing, I mean, you know, Pat,
Plugging along.
yeah, Pat has volunteered tremendous hours and given a whole lot of time to this project, and you know, we just keep working away at it. So yeah, even with the funding ending this month, there's a website that goes along with this grant. It's called caringwithfaith.com, where it lists some of the programs that we're doing right now and has resources for caregivers, and that website is paid for through September, so I'm going to keep it up through September and add some more things to that site as a volunteer, because we just do what needs to be done, you know.
Well, would you agree with me? There are three types of people in the world. There are people like Pat that make things happen.
That's like Pat.
And then there's other people, Pat, that watch things happen. And then the third group is the group that wonder what's happening. So thank you, Pat, for being in the group that make things happen. This is a you know, it may sound like a joke, but it's fact, right?
That's a fact.
You can apply, of course, you can apply that to anybody, any successful person, you know, that to make things happen. I mean, they definitely don't have dementia. They want to keep people from having it by staying active and ensure that other people are active. Well, Chris, where do we go from here? What about Care Smart? What do you expect Care Smart to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Oh, well,
If we had the funding.
yeah.
That's the key.
At this point, to be perfectly honest,
Okay.
it looks as though Care Smart will be closing at the end of the year.
End of this year.
Yes, because we don't have funding. We don't have money to keep going.
You mean Lake County is is that true, about the third largest, wealthiest county in the state of Illinois? I think it's about the third.
It's
one of the richest
it's in good
counties
shape, yeah.
Right.
in the country. And I was wondering if it doesn't hit their families, they really don't have an awareness, appreciation of how serious this is. Right?
Yep. So that's why I'm the area agency on aging program, the funds that they have. I'm going to be working with them to
Okay.
keep things going in Lake County.
Okay.
And then we will see after their grant is 16 months, so that will be a little over a year, and then we see if we can make something else happen from there. That's part of what it takes, is continual, because there hasn't been, almost across the country, a big commitment to supporting caregivers and people with dementia. I mean, the value of family caregiving, and this isn't just for people with dementia, but overall, family care, the value, financial value of what caregivers do is equivalent to Walmart budget or Walmart income in 2013. Something, I mean, we're talking billions of dollars.
Okay.
If all the caregivers quit doing what they were doing, it would be astronomical. So, and communities sometimes are devastated by the increasing number of people with dementia. So, again, if we keep people engaged, if we help the caregivers, it just benefits
The community as a whole.
everybody. So, if we can't do it one way, we do it another way,
another way.
right? We just keep going.
Doing what we're doing.
What type of staff do you have with you? Guess what? Or do you have a staff? You know, you're doing a lot of things, you know, but
You're looking at it.
there's not a...
I have, and this is one of my if not my super volunteer. I have a few volunteers that help, but I'm the staff person.
But we don't have staff.
Is there a typical day for Christine Damon?
No,
No.
no. I may have it planned, but maybe a caregiver calls, or maybe a caregiver calls Pat, and then Pat calls me, and we're trying to figure out how to help the caregiver. Maybe it's somebody who has a memory, they recognize there's something going on with their brain, and they call me and go, well, what do I do? And so we talk, I send them materials. Maybe I'm doing a program for a library, or maybe since I'm the executive director, I'm trying to do the budget for the month, or I'm trying to write a grant, or there's no typical. Typical is like all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if I get this right, you wrote the grant for this, or is it?
With the help of Lily Abbott, who is from
Lily Abbott, yes.
yes,
From
from
Shiloh.
Shiloh Church.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Retired educator.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lily helped me. Yeah. Without Lily, and then Pat put her stamp of approval on it, and off it went. So the Lake County Community Foundation provided the major funding, and then we had
Amazing.
Bright Star of Gurnee is a home care agency. They gave us some money. Autumn Leaves, which is assisted living for people with dementia. There's one in Vernon Hills and one in Gurnee. They gave us some funding. And then a home care agency and a case management agency, Right at Home, and ICOR, which are in Northbrook, gave us some money. Grocery stores have been giving us food for, gift certificates for snacks. And we had a speaker, a national speaker, come in this year. Her name is Loretta Vini. And she wrote a book, Being My Mom's Mom, and she was the keynote address at the Aging Well Conference at University of Wisconsin Parkside. And so I called her up and told her we didn't have any money, and she came to Waukegan for free and gave a fabulous presentation, and hopefully we can get her back next month.
In January.
Yep.
End of January.
That's one more of our goals here. So.
Well, we're very appreciative of your, coming to the studio and volunteering your time to let Lake County know, and hopefully you get some funding for. To continue this 2018. This will go online, this program will go online by this weekend. And hopefully with the millions and billions of dollars, what could be more important than help? But we talk about this as far as our nation know. It appears that with the cut in the taxes and so forth, we may have, 13 million people will lose their health care once this bill is signed. This is what has been projected. So it keeps us, you're talking with faith communities, it keeps us on our knees praying every day.
Yeah.
Because there's someone that loves us, and I'm a part of the faith community myself, that if Christ, God really, allowed his only begotten son, and this is my belief now, that it shows how much he loved us, to allow him to be born, suffered, died, buried, and raised from the dead on the third day, that we may have a right to tree of life. Now, that's love, right?
Right.
And you're showing your love for your fellow man, fellow woman, you know, for volunteering your time because you're concerned about dementia and about memory loss, you know. That's love. And so I want to thank you very much again. And what can I say?
I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about dementia and dementia-friendly communities, and you know,
Yeah. Okay,
we'll keep going.
ladies and gentlemen, again, we've been talking with Mrs. Christine C. Damon. She's a founder and executive director of Care Smart Illinois, and Mrs. Patricia Taylor, liaison of faith communities, and they've been talking about dementia-friendly communities. Hopefully that this program will continue in 2018, and they will receive the support, at least from our Lake County community, to keep this program going, because they're trying to raise the awareness, reduce stigma, and promoting support in their communities. I would like to say that yesterday is gone. Today is a gift. We call it the present. Tomorrow may never be. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Community Forum. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host.